The fog of Black Hollow never lifted. It clung to the town like a curse, swallowing the streets, muting the lamps, and hiding secrets in its shifting gray. No one could remember the last time the sky had been clear. Some said the mist was natural, a quirk of the swamp and forest around the town. Others whispered it was something older, something that watched. Detective Sarah Morn stepped off the late-night train, her boots sinking into damp cobblestone. She was sent to investigate the disappearances that had plagued the town for months. Families gone overnight, workers never returning from their shifts, children missing on their way home from school. All the files had one thing in common: no bodies, no traces, just the fog. She had worked violent cases before, seen horrors that stained the mind, but from the moment she arrived in Black Hollow, she felt this case was different. People didn't meet her eyes, curtains twitched, conversations fell silent as she walked past. An old man rocking on a bench whispered under his breath, not to her, but to the air. Fog never lies. Fog remembers everything.
Her first night in town, Sarah wandered near the swamp on the edge of Black Hollow. The air smelled of rot, the water still and black. Then, faintly, she heard it, a lullaby, high, broken, drifting through the mist. Her pulse quickened as she followed the sound into the reeds. There, half sunk in the water, she found it, a doll. Porcelain face cracked, one eye missing, the other staring up at her with unnatural brightness. Its tiny dress was stained dark with what looked like blood. As she reached for it, the lullaby cut off. Silence crushed down on her, and for a moment she felt like the swamp itself was watching. She bagged the doll as evidence, but her hands wouldn't stop trembling. The next day she followed strange symbols carved into trees, leading her to an abandoned church at the edge of town. Its roof sagged, and vines swallowed its walls. Inside, the air was heavy with mildew and rot. She forced open a trap-door behind the pulpit and descended into a hidden basement. What she saw made her stomach turn. The stone walls were covered with photographs of the missing, each one with their eyes scratched out. A crude altar stood in the center, marked with symbols she didn't recognize. Only one candle flickered, though there was no draft. She took out her recorder and whispered, "Victims identified. Possible ritual site. Strong signs of organized cult activity." Her voice shook. She knew something terrible was rooted in this place, something beyond mere crime. From that day on, she wasn't alone. At first it was glimpses, a tall figure at the end of an alleyway, gone when she blinked. A faceless man reflected in a shop window when no one was behind her. The same shape, standing among the gravestones at the cemetery, watching. Locals called him the Shadow Man, but no one dared speak more. The sheriff refused to cooperate, muttering only, "You should leave, detective. This isn't your fight." But Sarah couldn't. She had seen too much. Every time she thought of leaving, she remembered the scratched-out eyes, the blood-stained doll. A tip led her to the old Marlowe mansion, abandoned for decades after a fire. Its halls smelled of ash and mold, its walls stripped bare. She carried her flashlight and pistol, every step echoing too loudly. Then she heard it, whispers, dozens of voices overlapping, too low to understand, surrounding her though the house was empty. When she opened the parlor doors, she froze. The missing townspeople stood inside, but hollow, their skin gray, their eyes nothing but black voids. They stood in rows like broken puppets, swaying gently as though waiting. Sarah stumbled back, heart pounding. "Jesus Christ!" The door slammed shut behind her. The whispers grew louder, and in the corner of the room, the Shadow Man appeared, taller than she imagined, face smooth as glass, darkness spilling off him like smoke. Through investigation and careful observation, Sarah uncovered the truth. The mayor of Black Hollow was behind it. Desperate for power, He had struck a bargain with the Shadow Man decades ago. In return for wealth and influence, the town itself would feed the entity with fear and despair. The missing weren't kidnapped. They were offerings. She confronted him in a candlelit chamber beneath City Hall. The mayor stood in black robes before an altar, his voice low as he chanted in an unknown tongue. The Shadow Man loomed behind him, feeding on every word. Sarah raised her pistol, but the room itself seemed to warp, walls stretching, symbols glowing. A force pressed down on her chest, heavy as stone. "You cannot stop it," the mayor hissed. "The fog is eternal, and soon so am I."
Sarah fled. She had no choice. She sprinted through streets that twisted into places she didn't recognize. Buildings shifted, alleys vanished, the roads doubling back on themselves. The fog grew so thick she couldn't see her own hands. She nearly collapsed when a frail hand caught hers. An old woman with clouded eyes stood before her, holding a lantern that glowed unnaturally bright. "This way," she whispered, "before it swallows you." The woman led her through a narrow path in the forest, a place where the fog seemed to thin, though shadows moved restlessly between the trees. "The town will not release you," she warned, "not truly. It marks everyone who learns its secrets." When Sarah looked back, Black Hollow was gone, swallowed entirely by mist. Weeks later, Sarah sat in her apartment, staring at the evidence she had tried to bring. The photos had blurred, the recordings corrupted, every trace of Black Hollow erased as though it had never existed. But she remembered. At night, she dreamed of the Shadow Man standing at the foot of her bed, whispering words she couldn't understand. Sometimes, when she woke, she swore she could still see fog curling under her door. And one night, just before sleep claimed her, she heard the lullaby again, the same broken tune she had first heard by the swamp. It was getting closer.